Welcome to another episode of App-Solutely, the podcast from Vermillion Sky, where we explore the latest trends and insights into app development. I'm your host, Ken Vermeille, the founder and CEO of Vermillion Sky. And today we're going to talk about getting your app from 1,000 users to 10,000 users and how to do that effectively without breaking the bank, hiring 1,000 marketers, and ensuring that your app scales effectively and keeping your customers happy. Now, the first thing is congratulations on getting to 1,000 customers. It is a crazy milestone, and 99% of apps don't get there. Whether that be a mobile app or a web application, most people don't get there because most people build a product that doesn't solve a problem. Now that you're at 1,000 users, you probably have some money coming in, which is great. And even if you don't have money coming in, you probably have some advertising revenue, or you probably have a semblance of a business model that makes sense. Now, you don't have to have everything figured out at 1,000 users. You have people coming in and it's exciting and it's new. During this time between 1,000 users and 10,000 users, you need to double down on your systems. You need to make sure that everything is working in order to help you grow. Otherwise, you will stagnate. You don't want to stagnate in this time because from 10,000, you don't just go from 10,000 to 20,000, 30,000. The things that you do to get from 1,000 to 10,000 allow you to then scale from 10,000 to 100,000 easier. Now, the biggest issue that we see in the kind of 1,000 user area is that you probably don't have the correct metrics and data that you're tracking. You want to make sure that you have really good analytics. We suggest using Amplitude or Mixpanel to track all of the major things that people are doing within your application. That means if somebody logs in, you need to know where they came from. You need to know what they use to log in, whether that's email, Facebook, social login. You need to know how many times they've opened your app. You need to know the difference between people who've created an account and people who haven't created an account. And you have to have all of the core features in your app mapped out in your analytics tracking platform. The reason is because you need to start experimenting. And you cannot do any type of experiments if you don't know exactly what to experiment on. Having this data allows you to make small tweaks and really get to what makes your application successful. People use your app because you are solving your problem for them. And they stay in your app because the pain that you're solving is good enough for them to continue coming back. Now, this pain versus usage, it depends on what the problem that you're solving. Sometimes you are a one-off problem solver. I remember when the AI image app came out, and it came out around Christmas, people were stuck at home, and they understood that people are only going to use this application once, so it's best for them to have a business model in where they get all of their money up front, and then they're able to have that money. They're able to have that money because after you create a couple of AI images, you're going to get bored and you're going to do something else. So again, tweak this towards your business model. But once you gather the core functionality, once you have everything mapped out in Mixpanel or in Amplitude, you want to start doing those experiments. Those experiments are small tweaks that you A/B test with your audience. You have a goal, whether that be a conversion goal, meaning that you want your users to turn into paid users, or you have a session length goal. Session length goal is generally you want the users to be on the platform so that they could look at ads and then you get paid on the ads that they interact with. Pick one of those and make small changes. Change your onboarding process. That's the first thing that you should go to. You want to make sure that a customer becomes activated. Now, there's a difference between activating a customer and then making a conversion. Activation is a task that the user does to let you know that they are invested in the platform. Activation is not the user sees an ad, downloads your app, creates an account, and then leaves. You want them to perform a significant action that lets you know that they're invested in your application. Figure out what that is for your application and track it, and tweak your onboarding process so that you get them to activation as quickly as possible. The other thing is that once you do get them to that activation, make sure that you are sending them in an initial email. Hey, welcome to our application. I'm the CEO. Here's what you need to know. Here's a MailChimp email sequence that allows you to remind them about your application. So gather that information. That's step one. Fix your onboarding process. Make it so that you get them to activation and then ultimately conversion. Once you have those two things, you need to start building a funnel. Again, using Mixpanel or using Amplitude, you can create a funnel, which is a sequence of actions that a user takes in order to get to a conversion event. This means that you have your initial session where the user comes in, you have the middle event, which is your activation event, and then you have your conversion event, which is either number of minutes spent on the platform, which is a conversion, or them making a purchase on your platform, which is just a conversion. You want to have this funnel and you want to drive the growth in this funnel. Once you have a reasonable metric, and these metrics differ between each type of application. So if it's a B2B app versus a B2C app, your numbers are going to be different, but look up what the average metrics are for conversions for your industry, and just make sure that you're either above that or a little bit below that, but just make sure that you're within the range. If you're in a situation where people are coming into your app and leaving immediately, that's a good problem to have, but it's what I like to call a leaky bucket situation, in where you're getting people in, they're not staying. You got to figure out where they are within that platform, within the funnel. And then once you understand where they're in the funnel, you can fix that leaky bucket, because something happens either before the activation event or after the activation event that gets them off of the platform. So fix that. That's your number one job. Yeah, that's your number one job. Now, once you have people in your app, you have your funnel, you want to start identifying different user segments. People use your app for different reasons, and because they use your app for different reasons, you need to group them into buckets and groups. So you might have the people who use your app only on the weekends because they're doing XYZ activities and they only use your app on the weekends. You might have the big spenders who come in, they do a couple of activities, they're able to spend consistently on your application because of what you're doing. You want to have a segment for that. Then you're going to have a segment for people who just become inactive for a variety of reasons. You need to have these buckets and understand the type of user that they are, so that you can then choose which user base that you want to optimize. Now, obviously, everybody wants to optimize the big whale users, and that is because they're giving you the most money. The reason why you want to keep an eye on your big users is because they're doing something that is getting them some type of success. They are doing a variety of activities in that initial funnel. They're doing it in a specific order, or they're not doing it in a specific order. They're doing something that is getting them to the success that they want. You want to watch them very carefully, because you want to take their experience and then put that on the other user segments. Your whales may be 10% of all of your users, but they're doing something very effectively. You want to take their success and bring it to the 90% of the users, and you can take those things and build that into either your onboarding process. You could build that into your features. You can have a help section that says, hey, this is how you can be the most effective in our application. Do these top 10 things, and then start modeling those actions and encouraging that other 90% of users to doing those actions. Once they start doing those actions, they're going to be more engaged in your application. They are going to be happier because you're helping them solve a problem that they may not have they may not have known that your application solved for them because you are holding their hand, walking them step by step through what the most successful people have done in your app versus what they were doing. So model those user groups, get a good understanding as to who's being the most successful in your application, and then get everybody to take those actions, because one, they'll tell other people because they're like, oh man, I got this success, or I have this cool thing, or this, I was able to lower my cost by X amount. Get those and get testimonials from them too. That's the other thing. If they're giving you hundreds of dollars, or if they're giving you thousands of dollars, once you have a good understanding of how much money that they're giving you, they're going to be more willing to give you a good testimonial. So get that testimonial from them, and also take the learnings from them and apply it to all of your users in your platform. Now, you have your initial funnel. Don't go funnel crazy. Stick to 1 to 5. You have your initial funnel. You have your user groups. Again, don't go group crazy. Stick to 1 to 5. And now it's time for you to grow. Now, there's a variety of things that you could do to actually grow. You can do marketing, which is the quickest way. So paid ads, search marketing, app store optimization. You can do those things. And I would only do those things once you have that funnel, and then you have those user groups, and then you can start tracking which user groups go up. You want to do this because each user group is going to give you a certain amount of money or a certain amount of conversions, and you want to decide, you want to have a quarterly goal, essentially saying, I want to have this outcome. I want to bring in $20,000, $30,000, or I want to hit 100,000 users. And the way to do that is to optimize your marketing based on everything that you're doing on internally with your analytics. So you have your analytics. If I have 10,000 users in this user segment, they're going to bring me X amount of users, X amount of dollars. And you set up your initial marketing. You start understanding what type of user that you're getting for each marketing unit. And then once you have that understanding, you ramp up the amount of spend that you have in that marketing channel in order to get the people into your app, the people that you want to do the spend. Because you have because you're tracking analytics, because you're tracking the user groups, because you understand how much money that you're getting per user, you can justify your ad spend, because as you spend money, let's say you spend $1,000, you would make a return on your ad spend, which would be more than 1 times. So if you spend $1,000 and you get $1,000 back, that's okay, you're breaking even. But really, you want that return on ad spend, or otherwise known as ROAS. You want that to be a multiple. You want that to be 2, 3, 4 times, right? You want to spend $1,000, make $10,000. And you do that by ensuring that you have your funnel, your internal app funnel. You have a good understanding of your user groups. You understand the lifetime value per each user in your application. And then you're able to spend money to get those users into your app, and then have a good system to keep and retain them. And as you spend more money, the users that come into your app essentially pay for the acquisition of other users. And once you do that, you can easily scale up to 10,000 users using some quick math in an Excel spreadsheet. If it costs you $1 to get a user, and then that user brings you $5, then you spend X amount of money to acquire 10,000 users, and those 10,000 users will bring you $5,000, $50,000, and then you would only have to spend the $10,000 to get the users. Now, again, this is just quick napkin, like top of the head math, but that is your pathway to your users. Now, what happens is once you get to 10,000 users, depending on the size of your market and depending on what your application does, you are probably going to have to change that initial strategy. You may need to add more features. You may need to look into different ways of monetizing your audience, but this is the surefire way to get from 1,000 users to 10,000 users, and do it in a way where you're not breaking the bank. You are acquiring users. Those users are then paying you to get other users. You're growing your application, and then you're getting to where you need to be. And it's as simple as that. It's not rocket scientists. It's not rocket science, but it does allow you to have at least a good mental roadmap on how to get there. Now, this is a lot. You may need to listen to this a couple of times to get it down. But if you do need help implementing this, we're here for you to help you to really understand where you need to go next. So again, just to recap, track your metrics, understand what people are doing in your application, have everything that somebody does, if it's significant, throw it into Amplitude or throw it into Mixpanel. From there, identify the specific user groups by their usage, like figure out why they use your application. Also reach out to them directly and understand that. And then from there, understand who gives you the most money, match your marketing with that type of user, get those people into your application, and then have the revenue that they give you bring on other people. And then you just keep bringing on people until you hit the 10,000 mark. So that's all you have to do. Please let me know if you have any questions. Again, please share. If you're somebody that needs this, share it to them and let me know your feedback. Thanks again. And this has been another episode of App-Solutely. I'll talk to you soon.